Welcome back to another interview in my series with the amazing franchisors that I work with. Today, I have a really special one, and I know I say that every week, but today really is. I have with me today Nick Wallace from the Atwork Group, one of my favorite franchises. And full disclosure, I actually am a partner in the Atwork franchise here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I need to put that on the video. Nick, welcome in, and I'm looking forward to talking to you and sharing the Atwork story.
Absolutely, John. Thank you so much for having me and giving us an opportunity to visit a little bit more. Obviously, we know one another with
Yeah.
you as a partner in a franchise ownership. But our relationship with Outwork and yourself goes way back with the fact you actually brought us the individual introduced to us who is our number one franchisee. Got to go out and be with her, recognized as a top franchisee at IFA last year, which was so exciting. This is amazing. Yeah, I've been really looking forward and excited for this time.
Yeah, and for those of you watching this, there is an interview with Josephine in my YouTube channel. If you search for it, you'll see her. She is absolutely a superstar, been a franchisee of the year in two different systems. She and I were associated in a different brand years and years ago, and I can't say enough great things about who she is, both personally and professionally. So this isn't about her, but yeah, she's awesome, and I've worked together, obviously with going all the way back through what was it, 2016 or 17 with the Atwork Group. And it's an amazing opportunity. I always say this for the right person, but that's true really of any brand, right? And so with that, where I like to start, especially with a legacy type brand like Atwork, is with the founders. How did it get started?
Yeah.
Been around obviously since what, the 80s, and so talk a little bit about how we got started and the evolution up to where we are now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the things that really helps Outwork set apart is that we still remain a family owned and operated company after 30 plus years, going on 34 years now. We were started by John and Glenda Hall, who are our founders in White Pine, Tennessee, over 30 years ago, small town here. And at a certain point, he and his business partner decided, you know what? I think we want to start franchising this business. They were running a smaller staffing firm with a handful of offices out there. And, his business partner said, John, what do you know about franchising? And John said, I'm going to figure all of this out. And he did just that. And when he started looking at the other staffing franchises that were out there, he truly, in his heart, didn't feel like there was enough there for the franchisee. And so when
Yeah.
he set out to create this, he did it with the franchisee owner in mind from the get-go. I think part of what propelled that as well is our original franchise offices were actually employees of his that he went to. And he said, Hey, you own this now. And a lot of them came back and said, John, I don't have the money to buy this from you. And John said, Don't worry about it. We're going to figure this out. You guys are going to help me start this system. And that's exactly what he did. And so a lot of our differentiators where people say, wow, how are you guys the only one that allow your personnel owners to be the employer of record? How are you guys the only one that offer a low gross margin volume discount to allow your owners to go after big fish out there in the market? Well, a lot of that comes back to we were built that way from the get-go, right?
Yeah.
And so it would be so hard to unwind an operation and get to where we are today because we started there. But John's son, JD, is in our office consistently Monday through Friday, continuing the Hall name within our operation. Handful of years ago, John really turned the day-to-day leadership of the company over to our president, Jason Leverett. Uh, Jason's lifetime board member with the American Staffing Association, very, very active in that industry. And so he's really taken that over, of course, in partnership with John and JD, who are
Yeah.
still very active in our operations, continuing to grow us to where we are right now.
Well, I think that's really relevant in the day of flashy new franchises. And
Mhm.
any of you out there watching this, because this is July 1st of 2026, for the record, and you'll know that we've talked about avoiding some of those flashy franchises, and I love the brands that were created and the founders still involved, and that they were created, as you talked about, with that franchisee in mind. And that certainly is why I chose to partner with Atwork for our staffing company here in Tulsa. And there's a whole lot more to it, obviously. If people want to talk to me about my story, we can. This is about the brand. So let's talk about, I mean, there's a few terms in there that are going to be relevant to people maybe on a third or fourth step of a discovery, right? So,
Right.
they might be looking at this going, well, why staffing? I don't know what volume discounts are or employer of record. That doesn't mean anything to me yet, right? And and for the record, it will be very important if you get to the point where you're wanting to make a decision. But why would somebody, and maybe who is that person who would want to look at staffing as a franchise opportunity to start a business today, and compare that to not necessarily other staffing companies, but other, I mean, as opposed to burgers or haircuts or sign companies or whatever.
Right, right, absolutely. I always very generally will lump in franchises into a handful of groups. You've
Hmm.
got your child and kid affiliated brands that are out there. You've got the aging population is a huge segment of our industry. You obviously have the quick service restaurants, and then you have all of your home services brands that sit out there as well. And then beyond that, you kind of have those more niche offering franchises, frankly, like a staffing company.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about first and foremost, who is the type of franchisee that we're looking for before we even start talking about what is going to make somebody successful, what is going to make somebody enjoy being in this industry? Because staffing is very different. If you don't have a passion for it, if you don't truly have a heart to help people, to help your community, to
Hmm.
help employers in your community grow and expand, to be able to sit back and know that you played a small part in the process, but you helped somebody get that job and then they got a promotion and now they're able to do things for their family they never thought they were going to be able to do. I mean, that's what's kept me in recruiting one way or another for over 20 years now. I started with Aerotech, a major corporate staffing firm, back in January of '06. And I could take up our entire interview sharing stories of people that reached out to me on LinkedIn that I hate to say I can't even remember them because you interact with so many people that, man, they value and remember that impact that you made on their life. And so, first and foremost, we need to find somebody that has that mental, cultural connection to their community and the people that are within it and want to make an impact, right?
Yeah.
Our president, Jason, often says this is the closest thing you can get to running a nonprofit and make a nonprofit impact and still make an incredible amount of profit, right? So
Right.
it's an amazing thing. So that's first and foremost. Secondary, once we establish that cultural mindset fit, it really goes back to the capability and the ability of the individual.
Yeah.
That is one of the biggest things I would highlight with our opportunity. When you look at some other, say, a QSR restaurant, a quick service restaurant, okay?
Yeah.
Their earnings and their numbers are going to be pretty consistent location to location. Maybe your manager's a little bit more hateful than the other one, or maybe your location's not as hot as the other one. But if people like your food product, your smoothie, your burger, your sandwich, they're going to still seek that brand out, right?
Right.
And so you can kind of hang that shingle and you get a response. On the Atwork side, when you look at our AUV and our average gross profit after 5 years, I mean, AUV of over 3.4 million, average gross profit after 5 years over 750,000, all listed within our very detailed item 19 in our FDD, you start seeing some huge opportunities out there. But there's also more swings in between our individual owners. And we highlight that and displayed in the item 19. So where does that come from? We need individuals that are sales minded. This is a sales first opportunity. If you hang an Outwork sign, you throw up a billboard, you do a little bit of advertising, and you sit back and you wait for that phone to ring, you're going to be pretty bored, and your revenue's not going to look so hot. We need owners that have done sales before, have managed sales individuals before, or have managed heavy sets of KPIs. Okay. So whether it's the owner doing the activities or we prefer their business development rep, a salesperson doing those activities, this is a very heavily focused activity industry. We're talking 75, 80 activities a day, phone calls, emails, drop offs, that volume out there. So we really need somebody that knows that, understands that, and they've either done it themselves or they're comfortable managing somebody to a set of KPIs and really working them down through that process.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you clarified that too, because I know, having met a variety of owners in the system, including my friend, she was not a salesperson. She's got sales energy, but she's not
Yes.
um, and so if you are really good at working with and managing people, yeah, I mean, I certainly would put them in that bucket too. Um, I also love this business for, and again, July 1st, 2026, FDD dated April 30th,
Mhm.
2026, is the one we're referring to for financial disclosure. Um, when you start talking about ROI and ROI potential, it's not just those top line or revenue numbers, but it's also how they relate to what you have to put into it.
Yes.
You can make, especially if you're familiar with food, I mean, you can open a food place and make decent money at it, but you're also spending, half a million, seven, $800,000
Right.
for that opportunity to make 100 or 200 grand, right? Whereas opening an at-work franchise, I don't have the disclosure in front of me, but it's typically around 150 grand. Is that what you tell people?
For a personnel franchise, you're looking at about 165,000 to
Yeah.
250,000.
Okay.
And the majority of that is operating funds for your first, say, around 9 months in business.
Right.
Because again, you've got to ramp up into an operational flow with your revenue and your clients, and it takes a little bit of time to get that engine up and going.
Yeah.
And so you bring up a really good point when you compare us to some of these opportunities. You invest that much money into a restaurant and you purchase all of this equipment, you're instantly losing value on that equipment the day that you pull the saran wrap off of it and plug it into your store. And so
Yeah.
with us, the investment is fairly small when you talk about material items, right? You get some desks, some furniture for an office is pretty reasonable. You buy some computers and things like that for a team of three. You got our tech stack, and beyond that, it's truly operational funds until you get your feet under you.
Yeah. So there's a couple things I want to talk about. So let's come back to the model in terms of the roles we need to hire. But
Right.
first, I want to talk about the personnel model. There is a relatively new, within the last year and a half or so,
Just
professional
with this
model, right?
FDD. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've been working on it for a long time. Honestly, since 2019, this has been in the
Okay.
books. We took a long time to finally tune it,
Uh-huh.
get it turned into exactly what we need, built a team around to support the new model. Excuse me. But yes, that just got released in this year's FDD. But our personnel model is the one we've been offering for over 30 years now.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, for what it's worth, for me, on, somewhat on this side of the fence, I look at that as the gold standard. That's the traditional, that's the primary. The professional model is a little more along the lines of what we might have called a few years ago, like executive recruiting. Is that pretty fair?
Very fair.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And is that a different kind of startup? How does that compare?
So the biggest differentiator between those two models, you've got personnel and you have professional.
Yeah,
In our personnel model, you're looking at a brick and mortar location, physical location, operating within a set territory. Our
right.
territory is based on zip codes. We look at both population as well as number of targeted businesses to craft a really, really nice territory. And we spend a lot of time doing that with our owners. So again, personnel, brick and mortar, traditional territory based. And that is going to be an owner who typically operates as the branch manager within that location, as well as a business development manager, a salesperson, and a recruiter. So we often use this plane analogy, right? You need a pilot in the seat, that's the branch manager. And a plane needs two wings. You need a recruiting wing and a sales wing to keep it going. But at certain times, the pilot may have to pop out of that cockpit and maybe throw a little bit of extra juice onto one engine or the other engine, whether that be sales or recruiting. And so that is definitively a team of three that sits out there. In our professional model, this can be one individual working out of a home office. They don't have to hire a staff. We encourage that they hire at least one staff member to get started with them, but they can do it truly from a home office that
Mhm.
they lock into and run it that way. The big separation, product or offering wise, personnel is for light industrial and clerical placements. Okay, so that's what our franchise agreement provides, a protected territory. So you're thinking folks in a manufacturing environment, men or women working in a warehouse, picker packers for an Amazon, moving product, driving fork trucks. These could be customer service representatives. These
Yeah.
could be individuals checking you in to a hotel, to somebody taking your order over the phone, or a entry-level purchaser or something along those lines in a manufacturing facility. So that's our traditional personnel model. In that model, you have to have brick and mortar because you have to welcome these men and women. We call them our talent. You have to welcome the talent into the
Of
office,
course.
meet with them in person, screen them, these types of things, and then get them walked out on assignment. In the professional world or that franchise offering through Atwork does not have a territory. Okay. So that is anywhere in the United States. They are not offering light industrial or clerical placements. Okay. These are professional level placements at a significantly higher level that they're going to be working on. These folks that we're looking for personnel, or excuse me, for professional, are going to come from the industry they're looking to place. So they're going to have a very defined industry segment. So we'll use as an example somebody that was an engineer. Okay, so
Hmm.
they're going to come in and they're going to focus on engineering staffing. Our mindset behind it is a lot of times you get, a lot of terms for it, but the corporate refugee, the long-term employee looking to do their own thing now. And these folks oftentimes have to just leave behind all of these years of experience, right? So they went to college, maybe they got a master's and even more advanced degree. They've been a part of industry associations. They've built friends and contacts that they see each year at these events.
Right.
They have all of this institutional knowledge that they could share and be of value. And now they're going to leave all of that behind and go do something completely different starting out a franchise. Okay. Now, for some folks, that's a fit and that's what they want to do, right? It's
Right.
like, man, let me get away from this completely. But we know through our time, there's a huge subsegment of people that don't want to make that clean break. So we're now providing them an opportunity. Hey, still keep that whole engineering brain, still flex that Rolodex, still talk to these people at these industry conferences. You are now walking in instead of just a general staffing person, you're an industry expert. You're a consultant that you're partnering with them. And I'll keep it brief, but I'll say in my time, I used to do engineering staffing for
Hmm.
some of the labs up in Oak Ridge, the national labs. I would have to ask an engineering manager, give me 5 or 6 questions that I can ask this person, right? And then give me the answers that they
Right.
should provide so I know that they know what they're talking about. Versus if I was a seasoned engineer calling up and saying, John, don't worry about it. I've hired 100 of these people over my career. I typically look for A, B, and C. Is that what you look for, John? Right now, you're a partner. Now you're having a conversation. And so we're really excited for the model for two fronts. One, we think from a staffing aspect, it's going to make a huge impact on the industry to have knowledgeable people placing individuals that they know everything about.
Yeah.
And we also feel for corporate transfers, somebody coming out of that role, it gives them an opportunity to continue working their passion, keeping up with their old contacts, but doing something new and building something on their own.
And that professional model is a lower startup, right? I assume.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
You're looking at 95 to 115,000
Yeah.
to get that up and going. The 115 would jump up if you're hiring on a staff member.
Right.
The costs are down significantly for a handful of primary reasons. One, obviously, you don't have a physical office
Yeah.
location, right? So you're not building it out with furniture and signing a lease, leasehold improvements, these types of things. Also, your insurance is significantly less.
Yeah.
Why? And this is another very important key differentiator between the two models. In the personnel model, like I referenced earlier, our owners are what's called the employer of record. Basically, in simplest terms, that means the talent that are on their books work for them. Okay. So, John, obviously, in your franchise, the folks that are on your books, the talent you employ are your employees. All right. Now, that gives some really nice benefits like work opportunity tax credits. We hope it never happens again, but Things like during the pandemic, ERTC and Triple P, our owners had the ability to take advantage of. Now, work opportunity tax credits are on a pause right now. They've been on a pause before, but all of our indicators are saying they're going to come back live. And every time they've gone on a pause before, they've retroactively backfilled those credits. But what WOTC, Work Opportunity Tax Credit, is a dollar for dollar tax credit, not a write-off.
Hmm.
And so it allows you to dollar for dollar eliminate your federal tax bill. The federal government gives you those credits for putting folks to work that they have a vested interest in seeing working, right? So veterans, anybody on any type of government assistance program, anybody that's on unemployment, chronically unemployed, or second chance individuals. These are men or women that made a poor choice earlier in their life. They're re-entering the workforce and they need somebody to give them an opportunity, right? Give
Right.
them a chance to start turning their life around. And so you get tax credits for that. In again, the personnel model, that is our owner.
Yep.
In the professional model, Atwork becomes the employer of record. Why? Well, one, we're not taking anything away from the owner because WOTC credits in the professional space are pretty darn limited. It's really just for potentially a veteran that you would put to work out there traditionally, not always, but
Yeah.
traditionally. But the biggest thing is it opens them up to go nationwide, right? Because in professional, if you wanted to go nationwide and be the employer of record, now you got to file your LLC in every state, get your insurance in every state, and on and on and on as it goes. So you're also saving a significant amount of money on insurance within the professional model because we're taking so much of that on internally. So those are the two biggest drivers of the cost savings. Obviously, not having a brick and mortar, your insurance savings, and then, of course, the smaller team requirement that sits out there
Awesome.
as well.
Yeah, I learned something today for sure about that because it's so new. And so I look forward to exploring that further and being able to share that with people. And yeah, that's so it's really amazing to have these varied opportunities in a space where you're helping people and can really make a good living at it. Um, I like to shift gears just a little bit. I like to talk to people about, to be really successful, you want to find out what do the successful owners do in a particular model, and can you do that? Do you want to do that? Right. So it's not, forget about flipping burgers or cleaning toilets or cutting hair or providing jobs. That's the business but really you're in the business of meeting with people, going
Mhm.
out and talking to people, going out and shaking hands and being in the community, being the face of the business. You know, one of the things that I love about at work, and not all staffing franchises do this, but you guys take care of all the back office stuff.
Yes.
And it really allows the franchise owner to focus on those two, pillars that you talked about, recruiting and sales, bringing on new clients as employers.
Yes.
And so I think we covered it a little bit, but I don't know if there's anything you would want to add to, not necessarily the day in the life, but really the what does successful owners do every day, and so that people can visualize themselves doing that. Because, I'm sure if they've made us this far, they have some interest in the brand. But really, they're also maybe thinking, well, I never thought about staffing as an opportunity because, I think of franchising and I think of Jimmy John's or something.
Right. Right.
And it's not necessarily the sexiest brand on the list. But I will tell you, having learned it now and been doing it about 8 or 9 months, you can be pretty popular as the staffing guy at Chamber of Commerce meetings. People want to talk to you because you bring a layer of expertise and being dialed into the employment market, and everybody wants to know about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have had owners in multiple markets be invited in by the Chamber of Commerce as a
Mhm.
representative to talk about staffing and employment in the community when they're trying to woo a new business to come in. One of those really wild things where you're sitting in a room with a group of people, you don't even know who they are, what company they represent. They're peppering you with questions because they're thinking about moving a manufacturing facility, a
Yeah,
warehouse operation, a distribution into that community. And so absolutely, we want our owners to be seen as that community presence, if you will, the voice for the staffing and employment as it sits there. And I would say for our owners, those keys to success, if you will, the things to keep in mind. Your business development rep is the grinder, right? They're the ones out there hammering the phone, walking and talking, sending the emails, doing the communications. And then when they land those accounts, we want our owner, who's acting as the branch manager, to ultimately be the account manager, right? Take that relationship over. Go and meet with that client, expand the client opportunity, get
Mhm.
into new divisions and spaces within there. That's for a lot of reasons. One, frankly, it's a tremendous amount of fun. You get into this industry, you get to go into manufacturing facilities that you would have never even imagined how something is built and made. You learn about things that are in your community, and you're just like, I can't tell you how many times I've had an owner tell me, like, I cannot believe fill in the blank is made right here in my town, right?
Very true. I can testify.
You kind of put blinders on. You don't think about it, and then you buy a staffing company, and it's like, oh, industrial park, oh, call center. And you start seeing these things. But um, for our owners, it is you have to you have to. I know it's cheesy to say the line, but you got to be a people person. You have to enjoy meeting people. You want to be that person that is a face in your community, right? You
Right.
want to be going and meeting with these large employers and then connecting with them at the chamber and then maybe joining the manufacturing association in the community. And it is an engaged owner who is very tightly connected with their salesperson, who knows how to manage somebody empathetically, right, to a high number of activities. Because if you have not personally, and I have, and I did it for years, if you have not sat down and done 75 to 80 activities a day, every single day for an extended period of time, it is difficult. I'm
Yeah.
not going to sugarcoat it. It takes a certain individual that loves it, thrives on it, but you got to motivate them. And
Yeah.
so when we talk about the most effective owners, they're engaged with their sales staff. They're supportive. They're meeting with clients. They're not afraid to pick up the phone and make calls when things get slow. They're not afraid to hop in the car and go knock on doors when things get slow. And ultimately, they thrive on being that man or woman in the community that kind of everybody knows and sees and says, oh, John's the guy. You're looking to expand your company. You're looking for a job. You have this going on. I'd call John. I'd visit with John about
Right.
what's cooking in that space. That's where we want our owners to be. And we want them to enjoy that, right? We
Yeah.
want them to think about that and say, I would love to be that man or woman in my community.
And I think that's awesome, by the way. Thank you. But I think it's also important to make sure people understand, as this thing gets built, it doesn't necessarily become, you know, just managing, right? You can't take 30 hours off every week, but you can take a couple weeks and go on a trip and the team keeps running things while you're gone. You can take your long weekends. You can do, I usually have learned myself and counsel people, plan that first year or two that you're probably set a lot of that stuff aside. But that's to build your future, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
what's is that a fair trade-off to say, hey, all right, well, let's pause some vacations for a year or two and really grind out the business, build that foundation. Now the team's in place, and now you take 3 or 4 vacations a year. Or again, my friend who goes to Indonesia for 3 or 4 weeks at a time. I mean, it's doable, very doable once the team is built. So I think it's important for people not to realize you're not buying a job, you're not there, 50 hours a week in perpetuity. But like any good business, it takes a solid, consistent effort for a year or two. So I also counsel people that, it is the kind of business, don't plan on it breaking even in month 3. This is an 8 to 12 month, build those relationships up. And that's why you have, otherwise it'd be 100 grand to get started, right? I mean, because your money, your investment takes into account the negative cash flow for that first year. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. And you raise a great point because this is something that once it is stabilized, right? Once you have that team in place that you trust and you've got consistent revenue coming in. Now, we always say never stop selling, right?
right.
But once you have got a nice book of business sitting there, we have a lot of owners that now it's to each their own, right? We have some owners that we wish would open a second location.
Yeah.
But they say, you know what? I made more money. I make more money now than I did in my past life, and I have all this freedom to spend with my family.
Yep.
Great. That's why they bought that franchise. That's their end goal, and they are living phenomenal life personally, right? And
Yep.
they have a trusted team that they can check in with, a couple of key anchor accounts they keep up with, and they got a lot of freedom. We have other owners that get to that point and they say, you know what? I think I'm going to open a second one, or I'm going to
Yeah.
open a third one, or a fourth, or a fifth, or a sixth. And we have owners that have done that out there. And I think that's important to know too. Our system is one that can support you, whatever that end goal is. Is it I
Right.
want a bunch of free time and play golf and vacation and spend time with my kids or my grandkids? Great. We can help you achieve that goal if you follow the process in the system. Do you want to be a mega operator, right? Like some that we have that are, well, partnered with you, right?
Yep.
Tulsa and Kansas City and California and Orlando and build out a massive type of opportunity that way. Or we have individuals that say, I want to build something, I want to hand it over to my kids, and I want them to be in this. You look at our president, Jason Leverett. His wife, Kyla, is a franchisee, owns her own Atwork, and the salesperson and recruiter are Jason's son and his son's best friend. And so
Yep.
this is something literally being built by his family for his children. I'm thank you for raising that point
Yeah.
because I think it is just it's a huge opportunity for somebody to take a look at. This is not a QSR where you're constantly
Yeah.
replacing, a high volume of individual workers to keep that going, or where you are the actual driver. You can
Right.
eventually take a step back once you get it nice and stabilized.
Well, and just to expand on that, and for those of you watching, I am getting ready to wind this down, but um, you know, every time you open a new retail location, whether it's food or hair or any of those kind of things, it's another, 500 to $1 million, 500, to expand your territory or even open up an office in the next state, you're not necessarily spending another 200 grand, right? I mean, it's
No.
you can expand your operation much easier and much at a much lower investment if you choose to go that way too. So, um, man, we've covered a lot. I have a lot of questions, and yet I'm also kind of at that place where I think this might be a good place to wind us down and say, you know, if you're still here and still interested in like what you're hearing, there's a lot more to learn, and it starts with talking to me at that franchise guy. But I also want to, Nick, give you one last opportunity to say, is there anything that you think is important for somebody? People come to this YouTube channel and my videos for a couple things, primarily just to get broad exposure. So somebody watching this may not have specifically been interested in staffing.
Mhm.
So to that person, or somebody who is specifically, looking at starting a staffing model, is there anything we didn't cover? Is there anything important that we didn't cover that you think that we should bring up?
There's probably a handful of
Well,
things that we missed. And what I will say is this. I think one of the reasons why folks may shy away from a staffing and then look towards children, aging population, food in homes is because they know it. They're comfortable with it, right?
yeah,
Oh, I have a kid, I'll look at a child-focused franchise, or I love pizza, I'll look at a pizza franchise. This is one that maybe folks don't immediately connect and engage with because there are a lot of question marks. What I can tell you is we are a very thorough discover we have a very thorough discovery process that we take you through. Once we kind of peel that curtain back a little bit and we just have an opportunity to sit down and talk through some of the nitty-gritty, staffing isn't that complex.
yeah,
Okay. It's a business to business sales operation that's contractually based with hiring at its backbone. And we simplify that, as you noted, really the most complex stuff we do in house. I mean, our owners literally all they do on Tuesday is enter in the hours their talent worked, and we run with it from there. We're invoicing clients, collecting from clients, paying talent, handling the taxes, processing 30 some thousand W-2s at the end of the year, right?
yeah,
So if somebody's watching this video and they just say, man, if they've made it this far, but they say this just seems too complex, I promise visit with John, get connected with us. It's not that complex when you peel the curtain back a little bit. We got the process easy on rails. And so if you're looking for something that's a little different out of the norm, that you either want to continue using your existing skills or just your sales acumen, you want to keep putting to work, we'd love a chance just to maybe shine a little bit of light on some of the shadows that you're wondering about in this. I promise it's not that confusing once we talk it out.
I think that's very well put, and because you're absolutely right, it's not that complicated a business. It's a relationship business, and if you're a people person, if that's proper grammar, it could be a great opportunity for you, especially when you look at the ability again to scale something for a very reasonable investment. So, yeah, if you have any, and if you watched any of my videos or we've had a conversation yet, you understand, you're not going to learn everything you need to know in 30 minutes, whether it's on a video or even your first introduction to me or to Nick. Um, use that word process. And I tell people you hear that a lot once you start looking into franchising. The good ones anyway are going to talk to you about their process. I have a process for narrowing the opportunities down to maybe it includes the Atwork Group and introducing them to you. You then have a process for making sure they understand if
Hmm.
I do this, what am I getting myself into, and am I prepared and excited to do that and make that investment of my time and money and go with it. And yeah, so this has been awesome. I think this was definitely one of our better interviews in covering head to toe what does it take to be a franchise owner with the Atwork Group. And thank you very much for joining me today. I'm super excited. And again, as I wrap up here, I'd love to introduce you to Nick. You can reach me at John at ThatFranchiseGuy.com, on LinkedIn, YouTube, all these various places. But Nick, definitely thank you for reaching out. I'm sorry for joining me today. And if you're watching this, reach out to me and we'll get you hooked up.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, John. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate you again. And those of you watching, I'm always honored that you take the time to watch. Thank you.